Hello, this is Tanisha Dawson, author and women's empowerment coach, and we are here to launch TW's summer relationship series entitled I Love You, But I Am in Love with Me. And I would like to formally introduce him to you today. This is TW Dawson, author, empowerment coach, founder of XHB, the Association of Extraordinary Human Beings. He is also an authority on health, wealth, and love. And we are excited to have him here to talk about these relationships, candid conversation today and always for the remainder of this series. So without further ado, I am going to introduce you, TW Dawson, and also just ask you a few questions about your book. And my first question is, what inspired you to start the work of I Love You, But I'm in Love with Me?
Okay, well, that's a core principle that I have as far as relationships. A lot of times people put the burden of relationships or the burden of happiness in the hands of someone else. And when they leave a relationship that they've placed the burden of their happiness in someone else's hands, when that person leaves, they lose. So with being in love with yourself is the number one thing that you can have. No matter what happens in that relationship, you always are left with the best part, which is you. So you have to first love yourself in order to love someone else. And not only that, you can't give something that you don't have for yourself. And not only that, love, I believe, is not something to be given, it's something that's to be expressed, it's to be shared. So the concept behind that helps people transform the thought process of going into a relationship. And when they separate from a person, they don't leave with that grief. They don't leave with that sense of loss, but they leave with an experience. And that experience is a unique experience that they can only experience with that person. So therefore, it's never really a bad thing because we're growing, we're learning, and we're actually working on ourselves. So the idea of I love you, but I'm in love with me, that but says that, hey, no matter what happens between me and you, I'm still okay. And a lot of times, especially women, when they walk out of a relationship or they're left in a relationship, they're not okay. And then they struggle and they bring that into another relationship. And if for a guy going into a relationship with a woman that's been hurt, it's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to deal with. It's very fragile. And he has to win her trust all over again for something that he's not even responsible for. So I think that the concept behind the book is to help people own up their own stuff. If you're hurt, then you got to know that you're hurt. And you got to know why you're hurt. And you got to know that that can potentially damage what you say you want out of another relationship. And sometimes people just have different experiences in relationships that cause them to be a certain way. I had to realize at one time I was damaged goods. I went into relationships with all great anticipations, but somehow or another it just didn't work out. Was it something wrong with me or was it something wrong with what I was being taught? Well, it was a little bit of both, but I took responsibility for what I had in the relationship and I learned along the way. And for me learning these things, I felt, as a teacher, as a master teacher, that I can help other people get through those same situations. Whether it be the perspective that I'm giving women so they can understand why men do what they do, or the perspective of explaining to men what they don't know and how to go about getting what they want and their desire. Because when you get into a relationship, both parties want something. Both parties need something. And now you just got to determine, is this the person that's going to get me to where I want to be in my life? And is this the person that's going to give me the things that I need to get there? And that question has to be answered on both parties. But first things first, we got to know what we want. And if we don't know what we want, we'll never get it. That's right. And if we can't expect somebody else to know more about what we want than we do. Because a lot of times, women particularly, they always express something to a guy, like they want something from a guy, but then when you really ask them what they want, they don't know. So that's the basis of the book and the basis of the series. So we can kind of just like talk about the things that people really don't talk about. Yeah. I always say that our teachers didn't teach us the right way. Some people had great teachers, but most people didn't have good teachers. And by not having good teachers, we fall into the same categories as the people that fail. And then they're teaching something that doesn't have a great success rate. As far as the institution of marriage in the United States, it just doesn't have a great success rate. It's like at 70% divorce. And that's not including all the other variables that included in the 30%, like people that are staying together just for the kids or financial benefits. So it's not a real high mark when it comes to that. So if we're teaching that to our kids, then we have to teach it in such a way that it's going to work for them. by first understanding what they want, what they require, and where they're trying to go. I'm a very goal-oriented teacher. In order for me to motivate somebody, I have to find out what they really want. And finding out what you really want sometimes is not easy. It's a challenge for people to really understand what they want, because sometimes they want what society wants for them. But what society wants for them is not necessarily what they want for themselves. So, having said that, that's what the basis of the series is, and that's what the foundation of the book is.
Mm-hmm. And so you had said at one point that you wanted to change or almost challenge what relationships are, or what they look like. Explain what that means. I don't think you expounded on what you meant by that. Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a competitive world out there in everything we talk about, whether it's the job market, whether it's the relationship market. There's people lobbying, trying to get to the top in every situation. And so if you want these things, if you want a guy that's going to provide these things for you, then what are you adding to the situation to allow him to provide for it? Or what's separating you from everybody else? And why would he provide these things for you? Likewise, when it comes to men. You want the woman of your dreams? Okay, there's a lot of men out here that could provide a lot of different things for us. So what's separating yourself? What are you doing to separate yourself? In a stack of applications, what are you doing to make your application stand out? That's the question we have to ask. We got to change the concept of relationship, because a relationship usually is, what can a person get out of the relationship? What is he doing for me? That's the wrong mentality.
That's right.
Because you're in the relationship, yes, to get something out of yourself, for yourself rather, but what are you offering? What are you bringing to the table, as they say? And that's what everybody, no matter who you are, where you are, you have to bring something to the table, and not just the items or the things that people in society say you should bring to. Well, I got a job. Okay, who doesn't have a job? You know, well, I got an education. Okay, there's a lot of educated people out here. Where I'm good with kids. Okay, that might be something that is important, but finding the right person, the right code, so to speak, the piece to the puzzle that works for you, and saying, these are my best attributes. These are what I'm bringing to the table. I know what everybody else wants. I know what everybody else say they can do, but these are the things that I'm good at doing. I'm not as fast as Michael Johnson or Usain Bolt. I can't jump as high as Jordan. My hair is not as curly as, whoever. I can't do those things, but these are the things that I can do. And get good at those things and master those things and use those as the attributes that you say, this is what I'm selling. Mm-hmm. And someone's going to buy it because you took the time to be the best at something, versus trying to fit into a model of what society wants from you in order to get what you want in a relationship. And likewise with women, same thing. Right. You just got to just figure out what you're good at. You're like, look, I don't want to work, but I'm a good homebody. I'm gonna make sure that the dishes are clean and the food is cooked. I'm gonna make sure the kids are straight. We don't have to have, two incomes if I'm able to support him in this way. But you gotta find that out about yourself. And then when you find that out about yourself, then you can identify what kind of counterpartner you want. And that's important. So redefining what we're looking for in relationships, redefining what is necessary for us is very important.
Mm-hmm. And there is something that's so powerful in everything that you just said is we come into the relationship wanting something. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times women come in wanting and feeling entitled because that's what we aspire to. We don't aspire to grow up and become the president 9 times out of 10. We don't aspire to get grown and do these big things. We aspire to usually grow up and be a wife, or that's what we were taught. That's what happens. So we come in with these entitlements and saying he should, or this one should, not recognizing that we have to bring something to the table the same way we would if we were applying for a job or just going to do something else that was important. What is on my resume and what is going to sell me and put me at the top of this employer's or man or whoever's list to get me chosen for this. And that's something very important.
And another thing is what you said was definitely eye-opening to the revelation of, there was a generation that taught their women how to be, that taught their daughters how to be wives. Then somehow or another that changed. Yes, it did. And the Feminist Act came in and we're teaching women that you can do okay by yourself. We're teaching them all you need is Jesus. No. We're teaching that, you could get your own job. I got my own. And they glorified that. But I like to say that as glorified as that movement is, no real woman wants to do it by herself. So even in that woman that has her own, she has her own job, she has a great career, she probably makes more money than all of us in the room. That woman right there, she doesn't want to be by herself. So the problem with women like that is that they don't know how to come down now. You know, they've been trained to be the one, and now to submit to the one, or to allow the one to influence them or change or add to their lives is something hard. It is. And so there's two kinds of women out there. There's women that will love to have a man to just sweep them off their feet, ride them into the sunset, you know, and be that knight in shining armor. But then there's that other woman is like, I don't need this, I don't need that, I don't need this. All I need is a guy to do this. And she'll probably have a tough time even allowing him to do that. Yes. Because she's been programmed or conditioned to believe that she can do it herself. But now, on the other hand, is this. There's a reason why she's conditioned to believe that, because she's been let down so many times. She, more than likely, she's tried to find that knight in shining armor, and she realized there's not many. And so maybe I'm just gonna have to do it myself. It's probably was better for her to go out and get her own rather than sit and wait for somebody who's never gonna show up. But when he does show up, or then when you have that opportunity to find him, she has to know how to balance the hormones, so to speak. Yes. You know, so that she can allow this guy to come in and do what he's capable of doing. Because there's so many times, I've seen so many times that a woman of that stature had a guy willing to do all the things, could have been the best thing for her, but she could not allow it because in her mind, she wouldn't let go of control. Yes. So
that woman seems as such to be conditioned, but also in her conditioning, she's conflicted. So a part of her, our innate nature is we would love to have men do it. And then our conditioned nature is, listen, we can do it. We're independent. We have jobs. We make as much money. We're allowed to vote. And then that conflict or that confliction within herself ends up bringing conflict into the relationship in itself.
Absolutely.
You know, as always, I take to social media and I get questions for you so that you can help our crowd and help our audience sort through some things in their own relationship. So our first question is, how do you get past damage done in the relationship? Hurts, betrayals, after you're forgiven, but you still remember, and it creeps in from time to time?
Well, first of all, to get past something is to actually acknowledge what actually hurt you. Okay. If you've been damaged, you're hurt, you got to acknowledge it. But then you have to not only just acknowledge it, but you have to acknowledge what that actually is that hurt you. Why did you feel that way? What about what they did that you didn't like? And really evaluate it. You got to kind of open up the wound a little bit and really dig in there and see where you were being hurt at. And how to get past that is first to acknowledge it, number one. And also is to look at the situation as if you actually forgave the person, then the last thing you would want to do is hold it over their head. The last thing you want to do is allow that past situation to influence what you do from here on. Now, when you say it creeps back in, you allow it to creep back in because there's still a certain amount of insecurity that's a possibility that may occur. Now, forgiveness is one of the toughest things that humans have to do. When you forgive somebody, that means that you really say, you know what, you're not perfect. I understand you're not perfect. But guess what? I'm not perfect either. So that's what allows me to forgive you. You may have never transgressed your partner the way he or she has transgressed you. You may not even be capable of doing it. But there's things that you are capable of that they'll never be capable of. And that's what makes us human. That's what makes us individuals. So when someone's transgressed you or someone's done something that needs your forgiveness, that person in essence is at your mercy. That person in essence is at your beckoning because they need something from you. They need that forgiveness. And as a woman or a man of God or a woman of morality or of statute, if you care about that person, you'll grant them that mercy, so to speak. If you care about that person, you'll say, you know what? What could I have done to not allow this to happen? Most times when women talk about forgiving, the big one is cheating. And no woman is ever gonna wanna admit that there's a reason why he cheated other than the fact that he cheated. No woman is ever gonna wanna feel that, okay, well, I didn't do my part and that's what allowed him to cheat. But there could be a situation like that. And if that is, she has to acknowledge her part. She has to acknowledge her part, whether or not she continues to walk around the house with a hairnet on and granny panties. She has to acknowledge the fact that, maybe she gained 15, 20 pounds. She has to acknowledge whatever it is that caused her to not be the apple of his eye, so to speak, and cause him to look somewhere else. So once you acknowledge those things and become one with the idea that, hey, there's more to it than just him making that decision, because there's a cause to every effect. Now, she could have done everything she could possibly have done, and he decided that this is what he wanted to do. Now, that is something that you either got to live with, knowing that that's the possibility of, and you got to decide if that's worth it to you. You got to decide that, hey, if this idea keeps coming in my head, it's because I think possibly that it may occur again. Can you live with that? Can you be the person to say, it's a possibility that I'll put myself through this hurt again? And I'm not telling ladies not to forgive, and I'm not telling women that if he messed up, he's going to do it again. But every individual situation has the opportunity for you to take the time to say, what is my stake in it? Can I move forward from it? Will it happen again? Is this situation worth me going through this pain again? Now, that's something that you got to evaluate. Now, if you're being constantly reminded by things that he's doing, or if it's just popping in your head because of your insecurities, those are the things you have to decide. Now, if it's because of your insecurities, then you need to work on you. It's still more on you. Now, if he's giving you reasons to think of that, then you need to have a conversation with him, and you need to determine that, okay, the worst thing could happen is he does it again. If he does it again, where do I stand? Am I leaving or am I going? What am I doing? Or do I just decide to leave now because I know I can't deal with that? So it's one of those things where you got to kind of evaluate yourself, your part, evaluate the kind of person. Is he really looking for forgiveness, or he's just looking for a pass? That's important. Some guys, they'll say sorry, they do everything just so it can go over, and eventually they'll find themselves in the same situation after some time the emotion has passed from it. So the person, the answer to that question would be really to evaluate where your position is in it. How did it make you feel? Is it something that you're willing to deal with again? And is that person, what they offer to you, how they make you feel, what the plan is, the overall goal for your relationship, is it worth taking that chance that may happen again? And if it does happen, are you going to be able to maintain who you are throughout that?
Yes, and I think that and everything is so mind-boggling when you speak, because there's so much power in everything that you say. Going back, you said number one is you have to take accountability. Now, just sitting here as a woman, even hearing you say that, that makes you cringe inside. It's like, whew. But when something makes that feeling come up for you, that's exactly what you have to do. You have to take accountability, because accountability gives you your power back. So if it is indeed a situation where she's like, I can't deal with this, I gotta leave. But then even going back to what you said even further was, listen, once you've done all that work on yourself and like I've done the best that I could, you can walk away empowered and not feeling victimized, even if it was a pass or if he really wanted forgiveness. If he does it again, you could walk away knowing that you've done all you know and you've given it all you got. And that's a good feeling to walk away with.
And going back to the title of the series, I love you.
Yes.
But I'm in love with me. So no matter what you do, I can never jeopardize what I have for me, which is the love for me. So, hey, you may go back and do something else. That's fine. But at the end of the day, if me being with you is going to jeopardize what I have for me, I can't be with you. And we talked about the idea of what was it? I love to have you, but I don't need you. And that's a controversial statement. I'd love to have you in my life, but I don't need you, because we're trying to build individuals. See, when it comes to relationships, you have to build the individual. If you got two hurting people coming together, they're only going to make one. Now, that one is not even going to be a whole. it's going to be a fraction of a person. But when you take somebody and you build them and that person understands who they are, they understand what their powers are, they understand what their weaknesses are, they're okay with their weaknesses, they're fine with everything about them. And you find another person like that that's strong and know what they want out of life, and they have, these are things that I'm good at. Because a lot of times people hide their shortcomings and they find out about them later. And then now we gotta reevaluate this. We gotta recalibrate this whole thing. Now, I didn't know that this wasn't a strong point. You gave me an impression that this was. Had I known this was a weakness, I probably would have taken more time to evolve you or help you or explain to you, or I would have had a better decision. I would have had a more informed decision to make of whether I wanted to be here now. So now we're going to leave and you're going to be mad at me, but you never gave me the information that I needed to make the right decision of where we were going to go.
That's right.
So when you have a person that can say, I love to have you because I like you. You're beautiful. I like everything about you. But I don't need you. So whether you reject this offer or whether you say, I'd rather do something, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Because I know that I am the product. And what we're trying to do is create people with a mindset that they become the product. And if you're the product, it's free agency season right now. Yeah. So there's going to be offers out there all over the place because you're the product. Right. But if you have a subpar year, a subpar career, and you're subpar in general, there's not going to be many offers. And you're not going to have many options. And you're going to have to settle. We always talk about men and women settling. Well, we don't have to settle if we work on ourselves.
That's right. That's right.
We just don't, because there's not many people that are striving to become better people. At the top is a very few people that's at the top that are willing to work. And once you find people that are like that, they gravitate towards each other. You don't have to send a flare out. You don't have to send a big billboard out. They'll know. And that's what this whole thing is about. Finding people, helping people find themselves so they can become a solid individual. So when they go into a relationship, even though they had past issues, those past issues made them stronger. Those past issues gave them the strength that they need to move into the new situation. I used to say it to women all the time, growing up. This situation is over between me and you. This is our exit interview, so to speak. But this is for the next guy. What I'm telling you now, I'm telling you this for the next guy. I always used to say that because at the end of the day, you got to look at relationships like that. Okay, we can sit here and cry. We can sit here and yell back and forth, or we can sit here and understand what happened. And now that you know what happened, you know not to take that same attitude into the next situation. And men, I say this to you. You can tell the kind of guy you are by how you left the woman, what state you left her in. If I meet a woman after you, I'll know what you were working with based on what's in her head, based on how she's moved, based on her understanding. And so I never wanted to leave a woman in a situation that was less than what I found her in. Because I didn't want that testimony to be about me. I didn't want, you leaving a trail of women that's all broken and stuff and don't know nothing. No, that was never what I wanted to be known as. Right. So my whole thing is, everything don't work. Right. Everybody's not for everybody, and it's okay. But what did we learn? What was the experience? The fact that I'm not here, you might be upset. But the fact that when I was there, you enjoyed it. So take those times, take those memories, take those experiences and learn from them and go into the next situation with the upper hand of knowing something that you didn't know before.
So good, so good, so good. And unfortunately, we get to see sometimes the mentality of what's going on out here, because everyone, when they're in relationship, instead of walking away and working on themselves, they walk away and point the finger at the other person as to why it didn't work, or this is what made this fall apart. So I think that's just super empowering. The accountability factor, the working on yourself factor, and just coming back into another relationship as a whole and complete human being. I think that's the key to a successful relationship, is not working on the relationship, but working on you. And then the relationship has to work, because even if that relationship is only with you, it will add value to someone else.
Absolutely. And understanding what the relationship is, understanding what the relationship is. Because if you work on you, if I work on me, you work on you, then what is our relationship?
Right.
Okay, where our relationship should be, what do we want to work on together? But it has to be work. Either way, it's work.
Either way.
I'm working on me, you're working on you, but there's work. Yeah. Now, once I've gotten to a point where I've worked on myself to a degree, you worked on yourself to a degree, now we can say, what are we going to do together? Because a lot of times we talk about relationships as partnerships. Now, if you're a partner with somebody, that means you have to have a mission. You have to have a goal. You have to have an agenda. You have to have a schedule. You have to have something other than just being together.
That's right. That's right.
So that's where you start to determine what real relationships are. Not just to say I'm with this person. How many times you've heard women say that, you know, I want somebody to myself. What does that mean? Okay, you can, look, I tell women all the time, you want a guy to yourself? Go up underneath one of those highways, the bridges. You can find any of those guys down there. You can have him all to yourself. But a guy that's doing something with himself, he's gonna have obligations with his career. He's gonna have obligations with his kids. He's gonna have obligations to his family. He's gonna have a lot of different things going on. And so to have him to yourself, and I know that I'm probably taking it out of context, but at the same time, a successful man is a man that's busy. That's right. A successful man is that you're gonna have to figure out how to get his time. And the best way to get his time is to be a part of his success, is to be a part of what's causing him to grow, to be a part of his drive, his mission. Find a way to attach yourself to his overall goal. And you'll never have to worry about having him to yourself. You never have to worry about somebody coming in because you've added value to his life by adding value or adding a help to his goal. And that's important.
And that's great clarification, not just being together, but also doing together.